Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be doing a Q&A, and the Q&A is based off of questions that you guys have been asking me over the last few months when I've been releasing my persuasion videos, guru breakdown videos, and reviewing, the fake gurus out there as well. I have been getting, since I've been releasing those videos, a lot of questions in my DMs. I've also been getting questions on the actual YouTube channel themselves in the form of comments. And I was debating for a while, just going through and replying to each of them individually. But I thought it'd actually be really, really valuable. I assume it will be valuable for you guys if I go through on a YouTube video, break down the questions, because the questions that I've been getting are amazing, and I think the answers will be really valuable to people. So we've got questions like, I've got the list in front of me here. How do you get good at persuasion? Who are the real gurus out there? Ones that you should actually follow. What do I think about certain influencers like Andrew Tate? What is the best, most powerful persuasion principle? And these are obviously big questions that require detail. So let's do it in a YouTube video. I did debate for a little while doing a live video, and I didn't for two reasons. One is I'm in my 30s now, so I instantly, as soon as I turned 30, became a technophobe and can no longer work technology and just assume how it works anymore. So I basically have no idea how to do YouTube Live. Second as well, I think it would just overcomplicate things, particularly when I'm not quite sure if YouTube's actually pushing my content at the moment. So would it even get any viewers if I released it in a live format? I don't know, but let me know, guys. Let me know if you'd like a live version of a Q&A in the future. I can certainly organize that for you. So let's get straight to the questions. These are great questions. So first of all, a person asks, how do you get good at persuasion? Tough question to answer because it requires a lot of detail, but I'll do my best. I think there's two things that you need to get good at. One is reading people, and number two is directing people. Now, what do both of these two mean? Reading people is where you are aware of how the person in front of you is thinking, feeling, where they want to go, what their current situation is like, getting a feel for where their current mind is. That is reading people. If you've seen any of these influencers that are very persuasive online, they are very good at reading their audience. They're very good at reading what you're thinking as the viewer. They're very good at reading what the opposite person who may be interviewing them is doing. We look at Conor McGregor. He's very good at reading the room and knowing exactly what type of joke is going to land whenever, and that builds him his audience. We look at Andrew Tate. He's very good at pressing on the pain points of his audience. He's very good at starting beef and basically getting people emotionally involved, which you've seen him do in previous videos, because he can read them well, right? And then he knows how to direct people, knows how to direct the attention. And we're going to talk about this one in a minute, right? But at the moment, reading people is a must when you want to be more persuasive. A good way to get a gauge on people and how they're currently feeling and what they're currently doing is to ask people questions. This is documented in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it says in that book that basically being interested in someone else and getting them to talk about themselves is the most interesting topic to them. So if I'm ever meeting anyone new, I just talk to them about themselves. I don't really talk about me, because they then come away from the conversation thinking, you know what, I really like that guy, but it's just because I've listened to them. So it's like essentially an ethical technique of just making friends with people, and it's like an overt way of being able to read people, because they'll tell you about what they're doing, who they are, what they are currently wanting to do, etc. It's so powerful that I even tested it out once. I actually went to a party basically where I didn't know that many people there. It was a family, it was my other half's family, and I knew her immediate family, but I didn't know her wider family and all the friends and the friends of friends that were there. And I thought, you know what, I've just read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it talks about that meeting new people, the best thing you can do is be interested in others and being able to read them that way. And I tested how far I could push it, and I basically met tons of new people that night and spent 20 to 30 minutes in a conversation, hardly said a word about myself at all, and just asked them repeatedly questions about their lives and said, oh, that's really interesting, you know, tell me a bit more about that. And I got all this information out of people, and they ended up really liking me. I knew them quite well and knew what I could talk to them about afterwards, right? And now I've built this rapport up. Building rapport up with people, whether it's clients, whether it's, you know, your audience, whether it is, you know, people you're going to sell to, whether it's just friends, is a way of being highly persuasive. And it's also a way of ticking this box here of being able to read people. So ask people questions. And that is a key way to overtly, you know, read people. You will also find as well, this is very, very important. When you start to get good at reading people, I'm not good at a lot of things. I think I'm very, very good at reading people. It comes as an intuition to me. It's like a natural thing. I'm not that good at directing people, by the way. That second point, which we're going to talk about in a minute, which involves cognitive biases, which involves, you know, using conviction when you speak to people. I'm not very good at that as a natural, but I'm very naturally good at reading people. I think it's because I'm high in empathy, which basically means I can sit with a person for a little while, just speak to them, and I get a good gauge on what they're feeling. When you get good at reading people, you will start to understand, and this might be one of the most important bits of advice I give in this video, is you will start to understand there's certain behaviors and personality traits of people who you do not want to be associated with. There are dark psychology traits out there, and I'm going to list a few of them here. This right here, what I'm drawing, is called the dark triad, and you can do your own reading on this. But the dark triad is made up of 3 of the worst traits of human behavior. And that is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And I'm going to describe what each of those are in just a minute. But if you meet any people like this, you will start to understand that you need to keep far away from them. You shouldn't do business deals with them. You shouldn't sell to them. You shouldn't, you know, have them as your friend as well, because they're basically just out for themselves. They are bad parts of human behavior. So narcissism is where people are, they love themselves. They have huge egos. And the problem is, when dealing with a person who has a huge ego, is that they will always prioritize themselves over you. They will never prioritize you. If you do a business deal with them and there is an opportunity to rip you off because they get a bigger slice of the pie, they will do that. If you are following an influencer, there's a lot of influencers out there who suffer with this, and they have huge egos. They will tell you currently what they currently believe with the most highest level of conviction. But the problem is that conviction can change to something else next week, and they will alienate you if you don't believe what they're currently believing. This is narcissism. There's a few different subtypes of narcissism as well. This isn't a narcissism video, so I'm not going to go into it. But there's also different ways to spot that as well. But generally, a person who has a huge ego is likely to be a narcissist, and that sounds a bit extreme. That does. I'm going to just take that back. I don't 100% think they're likely to be a narcissist, but like, there's a chance of it. And if they're a narcissist, you should probably avoid them, because it won't be good for you if you get too involved with them. People who are Machiavellian. Machiavellian means they're exploitative. So they will do one thing, say one thing to your face, do one thing behind your back, right? Do a completely different thing. So they are people who are constantly trying to get the most out of a situation. So for instance, if it comes to a business deal, they will close you out of deals. If you have a influencer guru who you're following who is Machiavellian, they could be deliberately telling you the wrong advice because they want everyone to copy that strategy, and they don't want that's you know, the real strategy to become too saturated. So that is Machiavellianism. They do one thing, say one thing to you, and then do something else behind your back. Watch out for these people. They will exploit you. Psychopaths are people who generally don't have any empathy. They could kick a dog, right, and not feel bad about it at all. They could rip off all, you know, a bunch of people. They could rip you off. They could rip their audience off, and they won't feel bad about it. They will justify it, right? They just don't have that empathy trait in there. The reason why I'm telling you this, guys, is because when you get good at reading people, you start to And I can see some of these influencers, not all of them by the way, but like some of these influencers online, they suffer with this. People you meet in real life when it comes to deals, when it comes to making friends, when it comes to whatever. Part of being highly persuasive is understanding who falls on this scale, who's a narcissist, who's a Machiavellian person. Because if I'm dealing with a Machiavellian person, a person who is saying one thing to my face and then doing something else behind my back, I, like a chessboard, already will know what their next move is going to be. It's basically going to be whatever's in their best interest, right? Which is probably not what they're telling me. Like, if you don't avoid these people, you end up in not a good place, basically. But if you learn to read these people, you can avoid them, you can, keep your distance as well. So that is something very, very important. This, once again, is called the dark triad. Dark triad. Read into it yourselves, but there's a reason I'm telling you this, is because if you go and do a business deal, being highly persuasive is also about protecting yourself. And if you are going to sell to a person, or you're meeting a client, or you're trying to build up your agency, or whatever you're trying to do, you're trying to build up your business. If you go and apply this technique here, this reading people, of asking people questions and getting to know them and getting them interested in you, if you come across as a very, very nice person, you can try to sometimes come across as a nice person deliberately, because one of these traits, if a person does have one of these traits, will naturally try and take advantage of you, because they will assume your niceness is naiveness. And this is a way that I've been able to weed out people who are bad for business before, because then suddenly you'll find like, oh, hold on a minute, this person's trying to manipulate me because I'm being nice to them, and now they're assuming that I'm naive. So it's just a little tip and technique for you there to help you when it comes to reading people. So the more opportunities you have to read people, the better you will become at it. I worked in a bar as a bar manager for quite a few years in my 20s, and I was a bartender before that, and I got thousands and thousands and thousands every month of impressions of people, of first impressions of them. And that has given me the ability to see what a person's like and to kind of judge their attitude. That's where I kind of think it comes from. So the quicker you can expose yourself to more people, to bigger crowds of people, to meet more people, the better you will get at this reading skill here. Directing people is the second part here. So we got directing people. This is essentially being able to persuade people. And really the techniques that I've been breaking down of these gurus over the last few months is all really kind of in this part here, this directing people. And that's because it uses cognitive biases, which I'm telling you about. I've got another question here which says, what are some of the best books to read on persuasion techniques and how to be better at persuading? I would say this is one of the best books. This is Robert Cialdini's Influence, and it talks about a few different persuasion principles, such as social proof, where like client testimonials, or you've got reviews, and that helps you make decisions on certain things. It's also authority bias as well. And we've seen like Tate, Iman Gadzhi all do these little authority principles where he's showing you his Bugatti one minute, and then the next minute he's showing you his huge house. He's talking about like how his friends are billionaires. This is authority. You can learn these techniques from here. So I would recommend that you educate yourself on it. Once you've educated yourself on it, the things naturally become less effective on you when it comes to being persuaded yourself. Then you can start to learn all the cognitive biases, and there is a ton of them. Some are actually way more important for marketing and persuasion than others. We've got things like social proof. We've got authority, as I just mentioned there. We have reciprocity, where if you do a favor for someone, they are more likely to do a favor back for you. We have the liking bias as well. Liking bias is where you like someone, and because you like them, you ignore all the negative traits about them. You can also have a disliking bias as well, where you dislike someone and you actually end up ignoring all the positive traits about them. So some of the real genuine comments that we were seeing from that Tate bot video that we saw, where I got all the Tate bot comments all over my channel, some of those might have been real genuine comments, and it could be described, because the video is quite balanced, that a lot of these people had actually the liking bias affecting them, which is also known as the halo effect as well. What that means is that they were basically only focusing on the little tiny bits of information which I said were negative towards Tate in that video. And so they were responding to that, and they were completely ignoring all the things which I said that he was doing well in. That's called the liking bias. So they had a liking bias for Tate. So they were getting wound up by all the negative stuff which I said about him. So that was question number one. I hope you got some value out of that. Question number two is, how do you plan to monetize your channel? Do you plan to sell a persuasion course? I'm actually undecided yet. I'm not sure I'm going to sell a persuasion course. So my YouTube channel is only small at the moment, and I've already monetized it. You know, I've sold a whole bunch of different things off it. I've sold software, I've sold affiliate deals, I've sold consulting off it, I've sold coaching programs, I've sold loads of stuff off of my channel already. And what would I do in the future? To be honest with you, I think like the market will tell. After I start getting more and more comments on the YouTube channel, after it starts to pick up steam, after it starts to, you know, hit the critical mass where I no longer have to put much effort into it, and so it starts to snowball like the views each week and YouTube starts showing me to more people, I think the comments will generally start to tell me what I should sell on the channel. I do want to move into, in the future, stuff on helping people be mentally sharp and maybe hitting their goals or something like that, because I think that a lot of dreams are lost in life by people because their brains aren't functioning very well. You know, I had serious ADHD when I was younger and I could barely do anything. I had to do very active jobs because I couldn't really sit down and concentrate. I'm actually quite high IQ, but it still didn't mean anything because I was being stifled by this lack of this poor attention span, basically. So I'd like to do something like that. I think I could also make a big dent in the nootropic space as well. So like vitamins, supplements that people can take to help them. So I would like to do that a little bit in the future, but I have no idea how that would tie into this channel. I think there's a lot of poor quality products out there that I could, you know, fight against. Do I create a course as well? I'm not entirely sure. We'll see if there's a market there for a course. I've, you know, no problem selling off this channel. I just want to make sure basically that it's the best thing for the current viewers of what they currently want. But as well, you know, I don't want this channel to turn into a CoffeeZilla channel either, where I go and investigate everyone, because that type of channel actually brings a specific type of audience that will never buy from you. They are generally very skeptical on every single thing. You know, they're cynical on every single technique that any guru or any make money online influencer is ever going to say to them, and as a consequence they basically have no hope in the future. And if you picture life kind of works like this, on one side you're skeptical, and on the other side you are naive and you believe everything everybody tells to you. You get constantly ripped off. I've been on all sides of this spectrum, and this is what I'm trying to do with the channel a little bit, is I'm trying to balance it out. So I have been very naive at the start of the journey and I got ripped off. I literally got ripped off by a guy for like 10 grand. It was like a potential client who just didn't pay me for the work that I did. Like, he just straight up ripped me off. I've been ripped off on programs, courses, NFTs. And at that point, I was naive. I was over here. But if you look at CoffeeZilla's audience, they are very skeptical of everything. But the problem is, when you are skeptical, it is you know, a one-up from being naive, because at least you're protected a bit. But the problem is, at this stage, you also have no hope for anything. And what's a life without hope, right? So really, you need to be in the middle. And I'm trying not to attract too much of an audience, which basically, you know, ends up too much like CoffeeZilla's audience. I would like it to be a healthy balance where people can do their own work, where they're essentially educated enough to understand what persuasion principles are, to understand who, you know, you should be avoiding, to understand all the little psychological components which these influencers are doing to you, but at the same time understanding that some of the advice is really good out there. Some of the courses are good as well. I've learned a tremendous amount from courses. I've also had some courses where I've not learned anything from, and everything doesn't fall into the same category, to be honest with you. There is a distinction there, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment, is just try and educate people that there is different sides to the equation. So what would be valuable to me is if I build an audience who are able to critically think. You know, I didn't even mean to start doing these guru videos. It's just what you guys basically told me you liked, right? Initially, I just made a video saying you've got to watch out for people out there at the moment. It was actually this video right here, what the SMMA gurus don't tell you. And in that video, I was saying, look, I think a lot of the SMMA gurus are telling you specific techniques in courses and packaging them all up like this is what you do to get clients. But I was like, I'm pretty sure that most of them get their clients through YouTube, and they do it by botting the comments, by creating all this fake engagement. And I made that video, and what happened is that like loads of people messaged me saying, yeah, I feel the same as well. And so then that kind of led me on a path of creating more and more videos like this, of breaking down like the influence in the persuasion techniques. And then more and more people were messaging me being like, I love these videos, like they're quite educational and entertaining to watch as well. So I thought, you know what, we'll just carry on with that for the time being. But that's kind of where I am at the moment with this. And basically what I think will happen is after I keep building up an audience, you guys will then turn around and tell me, hey Rob, we would like the sound of this product. We want you to do something like this. And that's what I'll build from there. You know, YouTube at the moment isn't even my main source of income. I've got leads from it in the past, but you know, my main source of income is like consulting, and I've done affiliates and all the other things that I've just listed as well before. So you guys will tell me what you want me to sell on this channel. Honestly, that's how it works. That's how this game works. Next question is, what do you think of Andrew Tate? What a broad question. Well, I think that a person who has managed to become one of the most searched people in the world, which was obviously constructed, by the way, because he had all of his users' accounts sharing videos because they were incentivized with affiliates as well. I think that a person who does that is obviously very sharp. I think he's, as I've seen from the videos, very, very, very persuasive. I've never seen an influencer be able to sit down and with conviction speak and flip the script and do all these little persuasion techniques on the fly and craft these stories. We've seen other people do it, and their strength lies in other different parts, but his really, really lies in being able to flip the script, being able to get people emotionally charged, being able to do all this basically like verbal warfare with people, and then while still being ultra persuasive on the side. Now, with that said, there's lots of things I don't agree with him on. I think that obviously the court case, right, huge. I mean, like, if that comes out, I'm not a lawyer, right? So I'm not going to be like, who's guilty or who's not guilty. Like, I don't know. It certainly looks like he's guilty at the moment, but if he does come out that he's done all these things, what a POS, right? And I hope people don't still continue to think of him as a good human being. If it does turn out that like he's let off the charges there, what he will go down as is a very outspoken, kind of crude, highly persuasive person who can motivate some people, who annoys other people. He's an interesting guy. And I suppose in terms of like what type of character he is, that's gonna have to come out in the wash eventually, right? But at the moment, I think he's incredibly persuasive. Got another question here which says, who do you think the most persuasive influencer is? Most persuasive influencer. I think that each influencer has a strength which is unique to them. So we've obviously just talked about Tate there, I've talked about his strengths, but Conor McGregor was way more searched than Tate at Tate's peak versus Conor McGregor's peak. And TikTok and all these Instagram reels and things, they didn't exist during these times. So he didn't have a strategy. He got there through pure entertainment and pure being a superstar. And that's how he was. So he may be the biggest draw we've seen because he came from nothing as well. He didn't have a brand name either. I've seen that other public figures throughout the years have been quite well searched, such as, you know, Mr. Trump, right? He's been well searched throughout the years and was even higher than Conor McGregor at some point. But he had a massive brand name through the 80s, through the 90s, right? Conor McGregor built his up from absolutely nothing. So in terms of entertainment value, he's got to be up there. Who else? Alex Hormozi's very good. He's very, very savvy with what he's doing. You know, his whole image is big, jacked, strong guy teaching you how to be rich. It's a great image that works well for him. So he's also highly persuasive as well. He plays that role very, very well. Next question, most powerful persuasion principle. What I would say for this is persuasion principles in terms of what's most powerful is context dependent, right? Because there is evidence that cults, people who have joined cults, who have been influenced by them and then trapped in them, there's evidence that social proof, or, you know, having the view of what other members are doing and seeing what other people are doing, that is highly persuasive as well. But it takes a few key ingredients for that to actually work, and it's actually got to be done on more vulnerable people, and then they get social proofed into it, and then they end up joining a cult, right? So each different persuasion principle has its own set of circumstances which make it the most highly persuasive, and it also has a set of circumstances where it disarms it as well. So for instance, we were talking about on the last video, we've got all these YouTube channels at the moment that are using all this fake engagement, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that, like, well, social proof starts becoming effective if now all of your YouTube channels look exactly the same, right? Because all of them now have fake engagement. So that doesn't work anymore. And another important factor about persuasion in terms of like the most powerful persuasion principle is like, we often can't actually tell when we are being persuaded. They've done studies on this. They've done studies where like they've had two groups of people. One group of people is being persuaded and the other group of people is the control group. They're not being persuaded, right? And in group A, when their results, like they were being persuaded to choose a certain option or something like that, when they were persuaded and like 95% of them chose that option, but in group B it was 50 and 50, you know, the people in group A who were approached afterwards and says, hey, look, the reason all of you guys chose this particular option or this particular outcome is because you were all being persuaded, because we were doing A, B, and C to you. You know, we were saying a specific bunch of words to you. All these things happened during the day which persuaded you. You know, you've seen like magician programs, right? They actually get into denial about the fact they're being persuaded. So this means that when people are being persuaded, they can't actually tell they're being persuaded, which is very, very interesting. So we are being persuaded all the time. You're being persuaded by me right now, if you enjoy this video, to carry on watching the video. You know, you've been persuaded by everything that's on the news today. You've been persuaded by your friends, your family. Every time you scroll through YouTube, you've got an influencer who's trying to persuade you. But it's very hard to actually identify each of these specific circumstances of why you're being persuaded. Half the people who, you know, get into heavy politics and they're extreme left or extreme right to reach those decisions which have made them you know, receptive to that type of communication. They have been heavily persuaded into getting there. But you go and tell a person who's either extreme left or extreme right that they have been persuaded, and like the politics which they now believe in is actually not their belief. It's all these influencing factors. They just will disagree with you. They just don't understand it. But we're being persuaded all the time into the groups we join, to the religions we join. It's controversial, man. Into the politics we join. You know, all this stuff persuades us, and it's almost pointless to start telling people that their opinion is wrong or that they shouldn't be viewing something. It's almost impossible to get people to change their mind when it comes to things which they've been persuaded into. People just don't change their mind because there's a bias. It's called consistency and commitment. And what that means is that when a person has committed to a particular decision on something, or they have been consistent with their previous decisions, they are very unlikely to change course afterwards. Like, it just doesn't happen, which is why in sales, people encourage things as yes ladders. So when you're leading up to a sale, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, when you're leading up to a sale, it's a good idea to get the person who you're selling to say yes as many times as possible when you're leading up to a sale, even on scenarios that are nothing to do with the sale. So like, hey, are you having a good day today? Yes. Do you understand what I just meant when I said that? Yes. So just to summarize where you're currently at with your business right now, A, B, and C, does that sound about right? Yes, this is yes ladder. And then they have said yes all the way through the conversation. It actually feels a little bit weird to say no at the end when you actually ask them for the money. These are persuasion techniques. This is yes ladder stuff. It's commitment and consistency. So we're being persuaded all the time, and it's very tough to isolate the most powerful persuasion principle. Life's not black and white, it's all these different shades of grey. The next question says, Rob, I am not that smart and have a disability and have been trying to start a business now for a year, but I don't even have any skills, so it's been hard. Should I start trying to learn persuasion? Rob, I am not that smart and have a disability and I've been trying to start. I would start learning persuasion, and the first thing that you should be persuading is yourself. You know, it's not that you're not smart, my friend. It's basically that business is very complicated. It's complicated for everyone. We're being told on social media that, you know, it's very, very easy to get rich, to make money, to start a business, and it's just not the case. It's not the case for anybody I know. It's not the case for anybody I know that know other people, right? It's just being portrayed to you on social media. It's not that you're not smart. Recognize that you're at the start of a journey right now, start of, you know, the story. You are level 1, right? And when you start trying and start progressing, you start acquiring different skills. And when you start acquiring different skills, you get better and better at playing the game. So don't try and compare yourself to people who are at the end of the journey when you're just at the start of the journey, and just start concentrating on trying to assemble different skills at the moment. Marketing, persuasion, copywriting, selling. Just focus on each one for a little while, then you'll start putting together pieces of the puzzle which form the bigger picture. Hope that helps. Next question, what gurus are even real? It feels like everyone is just trying to get as much money out of you as possible, and they're all a bit BS. Tough question. So I can't really give a black and white answer on this, because some of them, even though they may not be very good, actually give some decent advice. With that said though, you know, I have seen some of the company financials of some of these bigger guru guys who are claiming to be doing $1 million etc. age. And like, it's some of these things are just not true. It's more often not true than not, right? And some of this company information that they have been saying that they, you know, they've been running a successful company since blah, blah, blah. Some of this company information is public, right? Some of these guys have been saying they've been doing whatever at a certain age, but when you actually look into it and look at the numbers, it's just not true at all. So I don't even know, like, people are so trying to brag that they actually forget that, like, they're just going to come off as inauthentic later when the, you know, the beans get spilled, right, and the secret comes out that they never actually used to do that. What I have noticed is that at the moment, the most effective model which people are running, I wouldn't say effective actually, I'd just say the most common model that people are currently running at the moment is this. They have like this bit of a BS backstory, you know, about how they were once broke, which may or may not have been the case. From there, they have created a YouTube channel, and they've made huge claims on the YouTube channel. And the huge claims are things like, I did 100 grand per month as a copywriter or something like that. And they'll make these huge claims on this YouTube channel, and then what they'll do is in the comment section, they will just have loads of fake engagement, and then they will sell a course on the back end of this. This seems to be a very common business model which is currently being operated at the moment. It is this BS backstory where, you know, you could search it and it's just not true. Then it's straight into a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel has massive claims on it about how you can either generate $1 million per year or how they've done $1 million, you know, at some point in the past, and now they're telling you exactly how to do it, and they've got all this fake engagement, and then they sell a course on the bottom end. This seems to be a pervasive business model at the moment, and I'm seeing it everywhere, and it's getting increasingly common. But as you know, everything with persuasion, when something gets increasingly common, that means it actually gets very, very hard to get clients from it, because now everyone's going to be seeing these YouTube channels with these bot comments, right? Iman Gadji was the first person, I believe, in the SMMA space to use fake engagement. But then we've seen this explosion of other people who have started to use fake engagement as well. So that will stop becoming effective for Iman now, because everyone has got all this fake engagement all over the channels, and like it creates this, basically this pit of people trying to compete with each other, all using fake persuasion techniques, which just are not gonna help their case. It's not gonna help them sell at all. Last two questions now, and then I'm gonna have to shoot. One of these questions says, are you worried that one of the gurus will see your video and then get you shut down because you're exposing the techniques that make them so much money? No. So we had, I'm just going to keep this high level. We had something recently where I think this exact scenario tried to happen, where basically one of the gurus didn't like some, I'm not naming who it is, but didn't like some of the content which was put out about them. And I think they tried to do something about it, and I think it backfired actually, because look, I'm a small channel, guys. No one really cares. And first of all, you know, I'm a tiny channel on YouTube, but because I'm a tiny channel doesn't mean I'm not connected. And, you know, I've been consulting as part of my work, consulting for big companies, and some of these companies are connected to some of these social media platforms. And, you know, don't want to go into too much detail here, but we think we know who kicked off a fuss, and that didn't go very well for them. I'll just leave it at that. All right. So what do I think about Tai Lopez? You know, Tai Lopez is a really knowledgeable guy. He's got this huge breadth of knowledge, and it makes him fascinating to listen to. And he has these really good ideas as well. You know, and he's obviously had mass success in the SMMA niche. He's had mass success in the entrepreneur world as well. Do question his ethics. There is something which is going on at the moment. I want to see how it resolves before I'm comfortable saying whether I support Tai Lopez or not. So we're going to let that play out, and then I may even do a video on it in the future if it doesn't go very well, because I do question some of the ethics which he has in terms of like whether he cares about people who've paid him money. And I suppose time will tell whether that's actually true. But that is all the time that I've got for today's questions, guys. I'm gonna have to shoot off now. Got responsibilities, got things to do. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want me to do a live one next time, or go into more detail on certain areas, leave me a comment, let me know. Like, I'm just taking this YouTube channel where you guys direct it. So it's very important for me that you leave comments and, you know, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking, and tell me what you'd like to see as well. We're carrying with the reaction videos in the meantime. One of the last videos that won was the cult persuasion video, and it's kind of hard to make videos on this because some people watch my channel because they find the information I'm giving across about how you can be manipulated, how you can be persuaded to do things, what the influencers are doing to persuade you. Some people find that very, very interesting to watch because they want to protect themselves. Other people, you know, they want to improve their business by implementing little bits of persuasion in there as well, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Then there's a third group of people that watch this channel and think to themselves, how can I achieve ultimate power with these persuasion techniques? And so me making a video on cults and things like this, I don't want to arm the dark triad people that we spoke about before, which I know that can happen. I've noticed since I've made the videos on the SMMA gurus, there is so many people now who are using fake engagement on their YouTube channels. And that could be a coincidence in that it was going that way anyway, but also it could be that I've spread awareness about this and that actually now more people use it, which is basically having the complete opposite effect from what I wanted it to have. So, you know, I do safeguard a little bit of the information, and I safeguard some of the most notorious persuasion techniques, and I do it because it's just hard to give that information out and then not see it replicated by some people who just are like, you know, I want to do anything I can to win. So yeah, so I don't know, maybe I'll bring that cult video out in the future, but I'll do it in a specific way. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like the video, subscribe if you want to. And yeah, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this. All right, guys, take it easy. See you later.